So the Book of Boba Fett finale. It's finally over. And the show has been weird. For me personally. The pacing has been all over the place, as well as the focus of the show. There are two really good episodes that don't have much of anything to do with the main Boba Fett plot. Um, the second of which, as much as I love it, there's a lot of fan service in that episode, and that is like the primary focus of that episode is just delivering fan service. Even though I think it's done well, it doesn't change the fact that that is what that episode is and has nothing to do with the actual titular character. um, and for the finale specifically, because nothing felt properly built up to me, except for the stuff about Mando, the payoff did not hit very well for me at all. Um, but yeah, I guess that's a small spoiler free, even though I mentioned Mando, but I feel like everybody and their mother knows that Mando's in the show. Um, Review before we get to spoilers. So you want to get into spoilers or you want to say something spoiler free before we get there?
I have nearly no thoughts, spoilers or not, about Book of Boba Fett's finale. I just kind of felt like it was meh to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, the show overall for me personally. Um if we, if we were to go into further detail about these problems, spoiler alert here, they started to bring up a bunch of stuff about protecting the people and how spice is hurting the people that we never saw. Did that pop in your head when they mentioned it as well? They were like, what are you talking about? We've never seen a point in time where people were like doing spice and it was like negatively affecting them at like ever. We saw spice twice. And every time we saw spice, it was somebody kicking it into the dirt.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
No, I was saying, did you like have the same thought when I think it was Boba Fett mentioned like the spices negatively affecting the people? And I was like, bro, we've never seen that happen in the show.
Oh no, not really. I just thought it was kind of stupid how they kept trying to make the focus about Boba trying to protect people, but we don't see any people. Like we
Exactly.
see like six people, and we see large like bird's eye drone shots of Mos Espa or Mos Eisley. Is it Mos Espa or Mos Eisley? I think it's Mos Eisley. We see like giant shots of Mos Eisley, and it's like this
That's
giant sprawling city, Espa, and it's like one of the biggest cities that we've seen
yeah.
in Star
It's
Wars, and then we see
yeah.
like three streets full
It
and
sucks
like six
because
people.
it's like you're right. It's like the biggest city we've seen on Tatooine specifically, and it looks cool, and I want to see more of it. And
I'm
this
pretty sure it's the
show,
second largest except for like Coruscant, but Coruscant is an entire planet, so
yes. So like,
not counting city planets.
yeah. So like, if you're gonna introduce this big city in Star Wars that we've known has existed but never got to see in full like we have in this show, and if the show's focus is going to be about Boba Fett protecting the people, you should focus on those people, like actually show us their lives, the day-to-day stuff that happens in that world rather than just the mods, the mayor, the mayor's major domo, and the lady that ran the bar who like died last episode in that explosion. Like there was like this show just lacked build up. And the one thing that it did build up, I feel like paid off so poorly, and that is everything involving the Tuscans. I talked about how I like learning more about the Tuscans and humanizing the Tuscans, but the pacing was off, and I feel like they took up too much time each episode, and I feel like they could have got the same message across with a little less flashback, as well as just having the show happen in chronological order and just starting from when he gets out of the pit. I feel like the whole first episode and maybe a little bit of the second episode should have been dedicated to showing his time with the Tuscans. And then the only other flashback we got after that was him saving Finnick. Um, and I thought it was going to come back. I mentioned like in the first time we talked about Book of Boba Fett podcast that I thought that the Tuscans were going to come back in the end and help Boba out, and that he was going to die in like it was going to be a story of him kind of like reclaiming Tatooine for the Tuscans. And no Tuscans ever showed up again. They were mentioned, by Cad Bane, who kept using their deaths and how they died to kind of like anger Boba Fett and provoke him. But if you were going to do that, if you're going to have Cad Bane be the person to try and provoke Boba Fett by talking about how they died, don't you think it would have been cooler if it was him who was hired to kill them? Because Finnick mentioned that the bikers, the Necto bikers or whatever, they would not have been enough to take out the Tuskens. So it was implied that somebody better than them took them out. And turns out it was just the Pikes. But it would have been cooler if they said like the Pikes hired Cad Bane, and it would have made the whole conflict between Cad Bane and Boba even deeper, because he's like, you killed like the first family I've had in a long time. But instead, he just kept provoking him with it, even though he had absolutely nothing to do with it. I thought that was weird, personally. I also feel like I love Cad Bane. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. And I'm not mad at the way he died. I'm mad that, again, complete and total lack of build-up. He should not have showed up in the second to last episode. He should have showed up much sooner. At least halfway through the series, Cad Bane should have showed up and been like a foil to Boba Fett. Being as Cad Bane is essentially what Boba used to be before the Tuskens, a cold-blooded bounty hunter. You got anything else to say about that? You know, anything I just said?
Not particularly. Like I said, I don't really have many thoughts about the finale or the show in general, honestly. I felt like it was a little weird that they were using Cad Bane as like they were like in that fight talking about how much like history they had when really they didn't have all that much history together. Like if you go back and watch Clone Wars, which is really the only times they interacted, they have like very little history together, and it would have been a whole lot different if they brought in somebody like Boss or like another bounty hunter that actually had a bigger impact on his life as a child. But like
I feel like
Cad Bane and Boba weren't really.
For me, it would have been more impactful if they started off early with the kind of showing that there was, making it seem like there was going to be flashbacks every episode. Like I said, Cad Bane should have been introduced earlier. Mandalorian shouldn't have had a whole episode to himself, and Luke and Ahsoka and Grogu should not have been in the show at all. That should have been saved for Mando season 3. And with all that potentially not being there, and there being flashbacks every episode, there should have been flashbacks to actually show us his relationship with Cad Bane, to show us time he did spend with Cad Bane, to actually show us that scene where they have a shoot off and he puts that dent in Boba's helmet and he blows part of Cad Bane's head off and he has to get a metal plate installed. That should have been a flashback. I'm gonna put the image up on screen and I'm gonna send it to you in a little bit, maybe after we're recording. But there was an image I saw someone post on Twitter of you remember that Star Wars 1313 game, the bounty hunter game, that was supposed to be starring Boba Fett. They posted some concept art of what Boba Fett's armor looked like, and it was essentially his armor before he repainted it, because it was his dad's, and it looked really cool. And it would have been cool if the old Boba actor, who's much older now, obviously, because it's been like 20 years, reprised his role as Boba in that flashback, with Cad Bane showing that shoot off. It could have been dope. Like we've talked about it before, this show did not focus enough on Boba, and it sucks that that's the case. Oh damn! I don't think I downloaded it. I'm gonna have to find it. I'm gonna have to search through my likes on Twitter. But yeah. Overall, we never felt a connection to Mos Espa that warranted Boba's concern, despite the show kind of being about him building a family of people that he trusts. It wasn't felt much outside of Mando and Finnick and the Tuskens, who we never saw the Tuskens again. The Tuskens did not get paid off in any meaningful way. The show lacked villains who felt like a credible threat until literally the last episode. Those droids are cool. And what was it? They called like Annihilator droids, something like that. And what is that? the Rancor. Everything with the Rancor was really cool as well. And I'm being really negative. I didn't dislike the episode. I thought it was fun. At the beginning, I was irked the entire time because I was like, all of this feels like it's moving way too fast, which it was. But overall, the action was fun. It was enjoyable, but it was all weighed down by a lack of buildup. Um, I like the show. I won't say I really like the show because that would be a lie. I like the show. I would give it like a 3, maybe 3.5 out of 5. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It has 2 really, really good episodes that are basically just episodes of The Mandalorian, but they're really good. And it kind of messes up the focus, and that's unfortunate. But that's essentially how I feel about it. Give me your final review before your episode.
6 out of 10. It was decent in some episodes, and I felt like a lot of episodes, like episode 4, was definitely leading to something completely different than what they went with in episode 5. And then episode 5 kind of turned the entire thing into something else. So yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I'd give it like a 6. The finale wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good.
Yeah. I just hope that they learn from their mistakes, and if they make a show about a specific character, that they don't take the focus so much away from this character, from that character, I mean, in the future. So yeah, not bad, but not great. Um, I think those episodes that focus on Mando shows that they clearly know how to make good TV. But the stuff with Boba was just they were struggling with how to tell that story. But yeah, that's all I got.